Hello, everybody. Just wanted to leave you with a quick note before you listen to our podcast of It Chapter 2. If you ever hear me say the name Andy, I'm actually referring to the character Stanley, or Stan for short, from the actual book, miniseries, and this very film. Why I decided to call him Andy, or got them mixed up, I really could not tell you why. Perhaps I am not mentally fit to memorize so many character names in one film. So please forgive this flub on my part. Just so you know, again, I meant to say Stan or Stanley, not Andy. But that is the character I am referring to in this podcast. So anyways, with that said, on with the show.
Okay, so do you want to recap quickly what we thought of the first movie?
Yeah, I actually made a Facebook post about this too, because I watched my old review. I had to do a quick refresher on the Chapter 1 movie. I'll just quickly pull it up here.
I haven't seen it since we saw it in the theaters. I never watched it at home.
Mm-hmm. I did watch it again. I was going to say, because my sister hadn't seen it, so we all watched it again. But we watched... When it got to the climax, it was so dark and hard to see what was going on that it didn't play well on our TV. And I don't know if, not to veer off, I don't know if the third act of this movie that we just saw is going to have that same problem when it hits home video, because at times it's too gloomy to look at.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens. That happened with my, the Bryan Cranston Godzilla Blu-ray is so dark. I have to watch it at nighttime. I can't watch it in the day.
Mm-hmm. It's... I don't know. It was the same issue with that Game of Thrones episode.
Oh, yeah.
Some people weren't complaining about that, and I guess they had really high-quality projectors, but for the average consumer like myself, it was a hustle.
Yeah, not everyone's watching these things in, a dark editing room.
Yeah. So, pulling up the post here... I said, as for Chapter 1, our opinions haven't changed much. I said for the pros that the kids gave all around decent performances. Some of them were really good. I guess the highlights were probably Finn Wolfhard as Richie. And they all gave it a believable dynamic as a group. They all worked off another, as true, believable friends. I thought visually it was really nice. The presentation was really good. It kind of reminded me a little bit, some of the shots, kind of like Evil Dead. A lot of Dutch angles, a lot of tilts, a lot of wide-angle scopes to kind of give, I guess, a lot of height to this town of Derry, because you're working from a kid's perspective, so it all looks a lot bigger to them than it may actually be. And I'm sure they probably built that creepy crooked house set, but they made it's probably a smaller set in real life, but they made it look larger than life on camera.
Yeah.
And then. I think the film knew not to take all of King's abstract material too literally, because he goes into some weird places as it gets to the second act of his book. And he starts getting into the cosmic turtle realm, the different worlds, and Pennywise's place in all of this. And I think it was lightly handled well here to be digestible for an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have similar pros too?
For the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we loved the kids.
Yeah.
I did go back and watch some clips. Yeah, the kids were definitely the highlight of the movie. Mm-hmm. I remember even though a lot of them weren't super convincing, it utilized some practical effects.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. Which I remember the kid was being chased outside the scary house by that. It looked like a dude in a suit or something like that.
The leopard, that's from the book. Yeah.
Yeah. That looked cool. And I think we both liked Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. I think due to nostalgia, maybe we both still prefer Tim Curry a little bit. But I thought his performance was good, and at least it was a little bit different. Just from the design and his voice and just what he does with the character. I liked.
I respect it for being a little different. I think he's a little too goofy to take remotely seriously, and maybe that was the point. I'm not sure, but I think Bill Skarsgård tries a little too hard to give the character these creepy mannerisms that are just they're very try hard. They're not really convincing, and I don't think Tim Curry was creepy either, but he had more of a personality and he had this approachable quality to him. And he also had just a batshit insane quality that was also entertaining. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And I didn't get either of that with Bill Skarsgård. Really, it's just I wanted to really like him, and I had the same issue here. Less probably in this movie than in the first one, but I really wanted something memorable out of Bill Skarsgård. I do think the design is unique, but it's way too insanely off-putting that. Why would any kid go up to that thing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember you mentioning that, like, a kid would go up to, like, Tim Curry, where, you know, he's like, hey, like, popping out of the bathtub. But yeah, no kid is going to go walk up to Bill Skarsgård with, like, the smile that goes up over his eyes and stuff. And another thing I remember, I think Sumner brought this up in our review, is that Pennywise's whole goal is to eat kids, but throughout the movie, he only eats one kid. Like,
yeah,
it's not that threatening. He doesn't get anybody.
And that was, you know, it was a circumstance that he was even able to get that one guy. Like, he can appear anywhere. Like, this is the problem with the rules of this world, and this is my issue with the book, too, is that he can appear anywhere and really do anything he wants, and he doesn't take advantage of it. I don't like. There should have been so many moments where he could have just eaten as like tens of thousands of kids. It's established in this movie that he's eaten a bunch of the kids. Nobody in Derry seems to bother to gather up their all their husbands and wives to like hunt him down, like in charge of the sewer. But
like or Nightmare on Elm Street, like they all band together.
Yeah, you know. But I guess that was the other plot point, is that no one in Derry really bothered to want to be involved with any of that. Like, the kids were seeing things that the adults just weren't seeing. So yes. Yeah,
that's something I don't remember picking up. I remember picking up on it a little bit in the TV movie, because there's the part where is her name? Her name's Beverly, right?
Yeah,
the girl.
Yeah.
Where she's like getting picked on by the kids, and the old dude like ignores her.
Yeah, doesn't even bat an eye, just walks back inside.
Yeah, and I don't remember picking up on that in the first one that much, and I definitely didn't pick up on it in the second one.
Yeah, well, yeah, because there's barely anybody around in Derry. Like, for a town that's supposed to be so lifelike, it's supposed to be having like their holiday parade, I guess, for the like some anniversary for the town, and that's the only time you really see anybody in Derry. For the most part, it's just a wasteland.
Yeah. Okay, and I think we both mentioned that we didn't think the first one was very scary.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was scary. It was funny, and I think it both unintentionally and intentionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, even like any genuine creepy moments, like I think the sequence where they are looking at the projector stills and they see an old image of Pennywise and they keep flickering and his hair is shifting over his face and he's starting to reveal like his eyes and whatnot. That whole scene was actually really good, and that kind of brought me back to the vibe of the book a little bit. And then it just throws that out the window for a big, giant googly-eyed monster head to pop out of the projector and just like freak him out and try to eat them. And it broke all the tension. It was just like, why?
Yeah. So I don't really have any more thoughts on the first one unless you do. We can jump right into the second.
I guess my one last thing is like, I didn't see much point of it having to take place in the 80s other than it was just the trend to do that. I wish it was in the 50s.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to spend extra budget on the second one to have that one take place in the 80s or 90s. If they did the 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know.
Sure. Now it's all about the 90s and soon the 2000s.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And that's when we're going to be like, we were there. That fateful day.
Pokemon cards, Beyblades, they're bringing them back, baby.
Furbies. Sketches.
PDAs. Yeah. All that good stuff. Scholastic learning.
Book fairs.
For 27 years, I dreamt of you. I craved you. I missed you.
We need to finish it. For good.
I've seen all of us die. It consumes us from the inside until we don't have a choice anymore.
You lied. And I died. You lied!
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into chapter 2. Because this one is... It's an interesting gem because you don't necessarily need to have seen the first chapter 1 going into this, because it's actually a straight-on adaptation of the book. The book starts off with them as adults, and it flashes back to them as kids. The first chapter is just focusing on them as kids.
And doesn't the book do that through the whole thing?
Yeah, pretty much. In the last act, it pretty much stays on the adults at that point, but all the build-up... in chapters, it'll go back to the kids, and then it'll go back to the adults, so it kind of does that in spurts.
Yeah, and this one did that because it flashed back to the kids.
Yeah.
So...
New scenes, too, that we didn't even see. They have a clubhouse now.
Yeah. Yeah, right off the bat, I guess I'll just say, I thought the movie was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
I'm seeing a lot of really, really negative reviews of it, but I didn't think it was bad.
I didn't think it was bad. I don't think I liked it to a degree that I would want to watch it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I could just say, I saw that. It was fine. Like, it's a fine film, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which is, you could say, is kind of a negative description of any movie.
Yeah.
It's just fine. But I'll say this. The third act, we won't get into spoiler territory yet, but the third act of this, I did like more than the third act of the 1990 TV movie.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And I liked the whole look of the third act, too.
Yeah.
And that'll go into whether or not it was too dark if we ever watch it on video, but I thought the whole set and just the way it was shot and everything of the underground was really good.
Yeah. Felt like we were in a Prometheus lair.
Yeah. There was one thing I hated about the third act, but we'll talk about that later in spoilers.
So this film opens up actually with a scene that does happen in the opening of the book, and it's when the gay couple gets beat up, and then one of them gets eaten up by Pennywise.
Pennywise bites him in his armpit.
And man, I completely forgot this even happened in the book, but people online are just up in arms about this. I don't know.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah, it's horrible, but it's like I can't handle this. Why is Pennywise anti-queer? I'm like, whether he was or wasn't, he's a horrible monster regardless. It's like, why should he's gonna eat anybody?
That's so surprising because I didn't think the opening sequence to the second one was as disturbing as the first one, where the kid gets his arm bit off and is screaming for help.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was more disturbed by that. Even though I laughed in the first one when the kid got his arm bit off, I would much rather just see some like teenagers get beat up than watch a one-armed kid scream on the side of the road.
I mean, yeah, we laughed because we weren't expecting the amount of just decapitation and gore, like, right off the bat. Like, you just tore a kid's arm off, and now you're gonna suck it back in and eat the rest of him. But that's also an issue I have with both of these movies, is that I don't want to see these kills per se, and I think the TV movie actually did a good job of hiding that a lot, which they made it a lot more implied as to how sinister and what this clown is capable of. And when you just see him like shapeshift his face to like make his mouth big enough so that he can even like take a bite out of any of these kids, it takes you out of it a little bit, for me at least. You're just kind of like, oh, all right, that's an interesting CGI effect, but
yeah, and it's not leaving much up to the imagination, and it's very like, I don't know, it's so American monster with like, you know, the spewing of like, I don't know, all the rows of teeth, and like kind of like the predator-shaped mouth. Like all American monsters seem to have that these days.
His mouth is basically the Sarlacc pit. Like you see the fangs just like in layers and layers coming down.
Okay, so there was the opening scene, which I liked. I thought it was a good way to open the movie. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it was from the book. I had never even heard of that scene before.
Yeah, I just forgotten. I haven't read the book since middle school. That shows how messed up I am.
And then after that, we start jumping just straight into all the adults, right?
Yeah, it jumps ahead to the adults. So this was a weird thing too. And the changes I noticed is that they bring up that Bill has a wife that also works in the industry, but she only has one scene, and it's just them bickering and arguing about the script, and like the ending sucks and whatnot, and with the director as well. And then that's the last you see of the wife. In the book, she's actually she has a crucial role and actually like follows him to Derry at one point, and then gets kidnapped by Pennywise, and she's an excuse for them to like further on and pursue the clown and kill him for good. And yeah, I just thought it was weird that she was just kind of shoehorned in, and then had no other purpose other than just like, oh, he's married, but doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I totally got that right off the bat too, that they were making fun of Stephen King and his endings. I mean, it almost seemed a little too obvious for anyone who even has read like or knows anything about Stephen King.
Yeah.
And they kept going on about that. I'm like, okay,
There's a
we
lot
get
of
it.
moments where there were, like almost like Stephen King was probably on set, like, guys, stop shitting on me. Look, I'm trying.
Okay, so we had James McAvoy, who he was good in the movie.
Yeah,
I liked him.
I'll say right off the bat, everybody's really well cast in terms of the look you wanted. If you wanted them to match the qualities of those kids, everybody was pretty well cast. James McAvoy was good. When he was stuttering, I bought it. There would be times where he would kind of shout or blurt things out, like in the latter half of this film, and it was kind of goofy. But I don't know. I guess I'm still on that split and glass train right now with his split personality. So it's kind of surreal seeing him play a normal role again, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's nowhere as good as his masterclass role as Mr. Tumnus.
Yeah,
but it might come a little close.
I heard in an interview too that he gave mad props to Skarsgård playing Pennywise with all the makeup he had to put on and all the prosthetics and whatnot, because I know James McAvoy, like, he just despised wearing all the amounts of makeup he needed for Mr. Tumnus, and I don't think he's ever had that much ever since, but he's like, man, I just can't do it. The latex, it gets to me. My nose can't handle it.
That's hilarious.
So I don't know how Skarsgård does it, but he commits.
Okay, so he was the first one we were in. Well, first we're introduced to Mike again, right?
Yeah, Mike's the one that kind of brings everybody together.
And he, again, man, just like the first movie, he's just exposition guy.
Yeah, I would say of all of them, he's got the least character. Like, I don't know much about him. We know he's got guilt with the burning people in the I forget the situation. It was
like a bunch of crackheads, right?
Yeah, just like burning alive, and he couldn't do anything about it. But beyond that, it's like he doesn't bring much to the table. He doesn't have a real encounter with Pennywise up until maybe the very end.
He's just there to describe things and explain things.
Yeah. I also forgot about this whole Native American ritual that they had to use to take down Pennywise. I forgot. I think that's in the book, but I can't remember fully if that's how it went down.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It seems like something that Stephen King would write in the book.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems weird that they would just make that up. But
yeah,
I don't know. We'll talk about that more in spoilers.
Sure. Yeah.
Jessica Chastain
is Beverly.
Was the next one introduced, right?
Yeah. And they kind of like shot for shot kind of remake the scenes from the 1990 movie where she of course she has an abusive father, so it's in the future she ends up marrying an abusive husband, and in the book he's actually supposed to also like track them and follow them to Derry, and they have a fight with him too.
Oh, really?
But I'm glad they kind of I'm glad both movies cut that out because it's really unneeded from the book. And I thought that was handled well. I thought she was great in this. I believed her as older Beverly.
Yeah, she was good.
And I think so. This is interesting too because this is Alex Muschietti who's directing this. He did years before he did these movies. He did the film Mama, if you remember that. That came out.
Isn't
and
she in that?
Jessica Chastain's in that too. So they probably have
cool.
they've worked together before.
It's neat. I haven't seen.
It's not that great, but
Oh. Okay, who else? Oh, we got Stan. Is he the one who kills himself?
Stanley's the one that commits suicide.
Okay. And that casting was amazing too. He looked just like young Stan.
Yeah, no. I haven't been watching. I think he plays the Swamp Thing character right now in that new DC series,
which got canceled before it was even released.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I like the old Swamp Man movie, the Roger Corman.
Oh yeah, classic.
I remember watching it as a kid.
I didn't recognize the actor that played Ben.
No.
I'm sure he's been in stuff. I couldn't place a name on him.
Yeah, he was a little forgettable, I think. And just thinking about like the whole cast,
yeah,
his acting wasn't bad, but he gets a lot to do at the beginning and then at the end, it seems. But we'll talk more about the middle portion of the movie later because I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, well, what's tough about that too is because with Ben, when he was a kid, they decided to give him the role of the scribe. He's the one that's interested in the history of the town of Derry, but actually it was Mike who was more interested in the history of the town. But they decided to give that role to Ben when they were kids in production. And then in this film, it's like all of that's just kind of scrapped, and they kind of gave the role back to Mike, and now Ben's got nothing to do. Really.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that because I remember that from the TV movie that Mike was the one reading the history book in front of the class.
Bill Hader coming back as Richie.
Bill Hader.
Yeah.
He was great.
Oh yeah. Definitely got a lot of laughs out of me.
Yeah.
But then James Ransone, I thought he was the highlight as Eddie.
Yes, he was so good. Oh my gosh.
I've always been a fan of this guy whenever I see him and stuff, and like he was, of all of the cast members, he was like the best.
Yeah, I thought when it came to portraying an older version of one of the kids, he was definitely the best.
Yeah.
It seemed like he even kept some of like the facial mannerisms and just the way he enunciates and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he looked the part too.
Yeah. I like even too that, again, kind of like Beverly and her issues. You know, he ends up marrying a woman that's just like his like overprotective mother. He's like, she's overweight, she's overbearing, and it's just it was fitting that they went that route.
I think that was the same actress that played his mom too.
You think?
The one that played his wife is the same actress that played his mom.
Oh man, maybe. I wasn't paying that close attention, but it could have been.
So there was that, and then what's the fat kid's name again?
Ben.
Ben, when he's in the boardroom at the beginning of the movie, they're doing the video call with him. One of the board members, one of those actors, was the Ben from the original TV movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That was a tidbit I found online.
Wow. Did anybody else show up, or was it just him? Like any of the other cast members?
I don't know. From what I saw, it was just him.
So I think it was Seth Green that played original Richie in the 1990 movie.
Yeah. They should have just had him come back as old Richie. Yeah. I think Bill Hader's getting the most praise from most people because I feel like a lot of people have seen Barry, but that's a TV show, so this is like Bill Hader's first like really wide dramatic in quotes role.
It's kind of,
and he does do really good.
Yeah, we see a lot of dramatic or people that start off in dramas like breaking into comedy, but we don't see enough people in comedy breaking out into dramas. So I'm glad that we're seeing more. I guess a lot of these SNL actors, a lot of these other comedians and whatnot, like really kind of branching out and trying new things. And I buy it when he's in the role. Like he's comedic where he needs to be, and then he's serious and more bold when he needs to also be. So yeah, so they all come together pretty much in the first 20 minutes of this film, and they cut right to the Chinese restaurant sequence, and you know the whole time it's gonna cut to those fortune cookies, and they're gonna burst open and do wacky shit. Although not to the insanity that this movie decided to go for.
Yeah, that's something I actually did really like that sequence, and I thought the CGI in that sequence, while it wasn't amazing CGI, I still thought everything looked good. If that makes sense. Like it didn't exactly look convincing as if it looked real, but I thought like the stuff breaking out of the fortune cookies, like it all looked really cool.
I thought they were really unique designs. Like that little baby creature, I thought that was something of nightmares. I had never seen something like that before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think most of the CGI was like that in this movie, where it may have not looked real, but the designs were pretty good.
Yeah. That's the thing with, yeah, so even like, so the old lady or like the leopard then when it comes back, or even some of these other like creatures, they reminded me a lot actually of Deadites, but they had,
Yes.
but they actually look a lot like the Mama creature that was in the Mama movie that Alex, the director, did years back. With all the eyes kind of like conjoined, and the way their mouths are kind of like stretched and whatnot, and the way they walk, it's like, it's kind of, it's very much similar to Mama, and even kind of Guillermo del Toro's sort of style too. I think he produced Mama, so that might have been it might have played a part in it. But that's what they kind of remind me of, these Evil Dead looking characters, like these Deadites.
Yeah, I liked the old lady. She was my favorite. She had like the floating hair. She just looked. It wasn't scary,
That's
but
the thing,
I don't know.
is, like,
I liked it. It was so goofy.
I can embrace it as a comedy in that regard. Like it's just insanely funny. I never was once scared in this. I think Zolly next to me jumped a couple times, but that was about it.
This movie is all just. If you've seen a lot of horror movies, you can predict all the jump scares in this one.
Yeah.
Every single one.
They'll have these great subtle moments, and then all of a sudden, this big Paul Bunyan thing is trying to kill Richie, and it's just like, what is going on? This is so over the top.
Yeah, the huge Paul Bunyan. That thing was like 30 feet tall, too.
Like,
that was so over the top.
I don't even think that happened in the book either. Yeah, they kind of shoehorn these other creatures instead. The leopard is from the book. The old lady is from the book. Also, that scene, like, I think was actually handled better in the 1990 movie, if you remember at all from that sequence. Beverly goes into the apartment where she used to live.
Oh, yeah.
I think the way it was done, it had that kind of 1990s cheese to it, but where she kind of turns into like this sickly, deathly looking old woman going like, Beverly!
Yeah, it's one of those things like Zelda in the old Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a little creepier because it's older.
Yeah, and then like speaking in her father's voice, like, making it more uncanny. But it's like that 1990s style of editing where it's just like, that does not look like it's coming out of your mouth, but okay, I'll roll with this.
Yeah. So yeah, what happened after the Chinese restaurant? You kind of get them going to the hotel. Oh, they all think they're gonna split up, but they
had their first falling out moment. But Bill goes ahead with Mike to trip on some drugs and learn about some native Indians.
Yeah, that was so strange. Although that was another case of cool CGI. The flashback sequence, it looked really cool.
Yeah.
I really liked the way they showed that.
It was a neat design, and then I guess for whatever reason Mike doesn't tell them that they never accomplished their job, like they all died in the process of trying to kill Pennywise with this ritual. And basically the Losers Club they're the guinea pigs, so they're going into this blind. They have to each find an artifact once they all group back together. I don't know if that was in the book either, but it kind of annoyed me because I wanted them all just to stick together as a group and then find each other's individual artifact with each other instead of all breaking off and wasting time, because that's when you start to feel the movie's length quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's what I want to say is like that's like the middle portion, second act of this movie, and I was sitting there because it was like a 40-minute sequence, and we get each person, they go to find their token, and then you see them as a kid, and they get haunted, they get attacked,
or have some sort of encounter, and then it flashes.
Yeah. To them present, and then they have another encounter.
Yeah.
And after like the second time doing that, I was like, do we have to see this for everybody? And we did. And it was just like, I was like, oh my gosh. Like after a while, like I was getting a little bored.
Except Ben. Ben didn't get his grown-up encounter. It was just the flashback one, which was weird.
What was his token? Oh, yeah, it was his note he wrote.
I thought, Beverly had the poem that he wrote. He had
her signature, didn't he?
Yeah, it was her, his yearbook signature.
Signature, which was just in his wallet the whole time.
Yeah. I don't even think these characters took it that seriously, what they were going to use as an artifact. Like, my inhaler, I'll just toss that in.
Yeah, exactly.
My Street Fighter token, It's gonna take like hours to burn, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and there was just like, it just got so sequency. Like it was not like melding together for me. It was just like, here's this sequence, here's this sequence, here's this sequence, and like some of the best moments in this movie are just when all the characters are just together.
Yeah.
And they're talking.
Yeah, you wanted to just see more scenes of them just kind of bonding, but you kind of have to give them things to do. I get that, but this was 40 minutes too long. I really.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot you could cut out here, and then added to that, you throw in these random sequences with Pennywise, which I will admit I kind of thought were done a little bit better than in Chapter 1. The one that comes to mind is with the little girl with the scar on her cheek.
Yeah.
I'd liked how that sequence was shot. He was still doing his goofy shtick. Like, again, why would anyone go up to him? Why is he talking the way he does? Just about to, like, just go crying into his palms.
I felt like this Pennywise, he felt a little different than in the first one. He definitely felt a little more Freddy Krueger-y to me.
Yeah, definitely.
In this one. Except Freddy Krueger actually, like, I don't know. Well, no one can do Freddy Krueger because he's so good, but...
Well, yeah, Freddy Krueger, for him, it's like well, first off, he's able to slay his victims, like, in a heartbeat after having fun with them. But also...
He actually gets them.
But he can play on their level, too, even in their dreams, because he's not like a space alien. He used to be a man who turned burn victim and now, like, just killing people in their dreams. But, like, he knows how to talk to other teenagers on their level and still be a threatening presence and also be goofy. Pennywise, he's a cosmic space alien who's trying so hard to sound like a normal person on the Earth, on like planet Earth, but he can't quite get it.
Yeah. And I guess we're just gonna spill some spoilers here, but I did like how they did hint that Pennywise is a space alien.
Yeah.
They showed the meteor falling to Earth.
Yeah.
I like that they didn't shy away from that.
He constantly refers to himself as the Eater of Worlds.
Yeah. How many worlds have you eaten? You've been on this one forever.
Yeah, it's like, Earth's doing just fine, apparently. But yeah, so after, like, what'd you think of the Stephen King cameo? I don't think he's made a cameo in quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
He looks old.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, as soon as I saw him there, I was like, oh, here comes Stephen. People say he's a really bad actor.
No,
and I would get that maybe from, like, Creepshow, where he's just so over the top.
That's my favorite performance, though.
Yeah, meteor shit. I liked him in this one.
Yeah.
It was maybe a little bit of an extended cameo, but I thought it was funny.
It went on longer than I thought. And I like the payoff, too, after Bill buys that bike, and it's just not, like, in any good shape. He doesn't even he didn't even, like, bother to ask, like, hey, are the tires pumped? Are the gears in check? Is everything good to go? And he's like, with $300.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Oh, yeah, and then there was that sequence when he was riding the bike, and didn't he, like, go up to that kid?
Oh, okay, yeah, this is the other weird thing with this film, is that kid is a recurring character and does get brutally slaughtered by Pennywise. But up until that point, if you were just standing on the sidelines and you watched any of the members of the Loser Gang, like, go up to this kid, and just how they act, like with Bill Hader just shouting at him and grabbing him by, like, the shirt, or even, like, James McAvoy just, like, shouting in his face, like, this is uncomfortable if you're just, like, without any context.
I don't know how the kid didn't start crying. Yeah. At first I thought the kid was Pennywise.
Yeah.
Because his, like, I don't know, he was, like, such a confident, it was like a kid acting like an adult, kind of.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like that. But yeah, even right down to James McAvoy just chasing this kid down at a carnival. Going into, I don't know if, I think someone suggested they do the sequence in the Hall of Mirrors or the little maze, whatnot. But that whole bit where it's like, once the kid, like, catches on to what's going on and then sees Pennywise in the other door frame, and Pennywise starts banging on the door, and then you got James McAvoy on the other side banging on the door. I, for a split second, thought the kid was scared of Pennywise, but was more scared of James McAvoy getting him. Because he's got two, like, crazy, like, insane people just trying to get him.
Yeah, everyone just has one person coming after him in this movie, but that kid has two.
Yeah. And then he dies.
I did like how he died, though, with just the blood splatter.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. But then, so after that whole... Well, do you have anything else to say about the middle portion?
Not a whole lot. It's shot well. There's some shots which felt like trailer shots, and it kind of had this weird like Avengers Assemble sort of look to it. You know, like there'd be scenes where they're walking down like the empty lanes of Derry Street or whatever, and you know you see like a tumblewind in the background. It's just no one's in sight, and they're all just dramatically like you expect like lightning to like crash any minute, and they'd just be standing like so majestically in the middle of the street. I will say in the middle portion though, when it cut to the kids, did you notice any de-aging?
I did when they were in the clubhouse.
Okay. I wasn't paying that much close attention to their faces, but their voices fell off, especially Eddie's.
I didn't notice much about their voice, but Ben's face was ridiculously like is it 8 or what's the smoothing effect where everything looks like wax?
It's like I don't know, it's like a beveling effect, like a moss.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
Okay, yeah.
Ben looked so weird, I thought.
That I saw that a little bit with Richie, but with Eddie's voice, it felt really sped up, and it was because that actor was in Shazam earlier this year, and he's definitely grown up since Chapter 1, so it was it was kind of telling that they did something to his voice, like they tuned it to sound more like a chipmunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out if those sequences needed to be in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The kid sequences, you know? It almost seemed like they put them in just because everyone liked the kids so much in the first one.
I thought if they planned it better in pre-production, that they just shoot these scenes while they were making Chapter 1 and then insert them into Chapter 2. That would have been easier instead of reshooting new scenes.
They probably didn't know that Chapter 1 was going to be like such big of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this one's going to make as much... Well, maybe it will. I don't know. Because the Chapter 1 is the highest-grossing horror film, I think. It beat Exorcist.
Oh, is it? Wow. Yeah, I mean, this one will make a lot of money, but I don't think as much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought this movie just jumped right into its third act. Like, very abruptly.
Yeah.
Like, James McAvoy just decides, like, he's like, all right, after the kid dies, he's like, I'm just going to go kill Pennywise.
Yeah, that was
like,
so...
And then they all just rejoin back together, and they're all like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, they beat it. They make it there just in time to, like, tell them, no, we got to do this as a group. To the point where it's just like, just regroup and go there. Don't add another 5 minutes of, Bill's at it again. He's losing his mind. It's like, just like little things you could just cut down if you want to get right to the chase. But then, yeah, this is where the real showdown kind of comes into play, because of course there has to be the sequence where they see Andy's head come out of the refrigerator. I don't remember if that's how it happened in the book, but the image of his head, it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be his adult head from after he committed suicide, but he appears in the refrigerator and rolls out and talks to them, basically just taunts them, and then it turns out Pennywise is manipulating the whole situation.
Was that was the Thing reference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, I would thought of you. I was like, oh, Jeremy's gonna totally get this.
I
like,
caught
within
that
a second.
Instantly, even from how it was shot and framed, and then when you had Bill Hader go, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
I was just like...
As soon as I saw the legs come out, I was like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I kind of groaned, though. It's just, like, random.
Yeah. What else did they have? They had the head coming out of the fridge. Oh, whose head was that?
That was Andy's, yeah, who didn't end up going with them. He looked a little bit like the creature from Basket Case when like all the parts were coming out of his out of the head.
That's right. And then they go, and do they do the ritual and then they go into the different rooms, or was it the different rooms then the ritual?
They go into the different rooms first, because they keep going lower and lower into like the underbelly of the sewers. Basically, like the true lair of Pennywise is where they end up, and then they start the ritual, and then he comes out and says, it didn't work.
Yeah, So I thought the rooms. Well, they kept replaying the scares from the first movie with like the 3 doors.
Yeah.
I remember that was.
That was pretty funny how they did that.
With the puppy. Yeah, Bill Hader was great in that.
Both of them worked off each other so well. You really bought their friendship. Even when they say like, all right, remember last time let's not go for the not scary one. Obviously he's trying to mess with us. Go for the very, very scary door. They open it and...
And wasn't it just like 2 legs,
or yeah,
right?
just the legs coming out. It's like, nope. That's the other thing too, is like you can't find much of the scary when the characters themselves are not taking it as seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie did that so much where, oh, this was something I totally forgot, which totally could have been cut out of the movie, was the bully.
Oh yeah. Well, that does happen in the book, and I never cared for that aspect.
It has no effect on the story whatsoever.
Yeah, he's less to do actually in this than he does in the 1990 movie. He's supposed to. He gets a few more lines of dialogue even in the older film, and he's supposed to actually like severely injure Mike, who Mike ends up being hospitalized. He doesn't make it to the sewers with the rest of the gang. But in But in this one, they decided to have him continue on and like press forward with them, which I'm fine with that change. Like, I never cared for Harry Bowers coming back, even in the book. It never really seemed to fit.
Yeah, they should have just cut that out. And it was so strange that it was like he breaks out, then he's being driven around by like his zombie friend.
Yeah.
And that zombie kid, like, he never shows up again. And was it real? Was it like an actual zombie kid?
I feel like it might have been in his head.
Pennywise?
He was actually driving, but
I don't know. It was so vague. Like a lot of things. Like you said, the whole how Pennywise works, it's very vague. It doesn't have like set in stone rules.
Yeah, it's that's the thing that's a rule I think with most horror films. You have to establish what your world is capable of. I think, yeah, if we're going to compare this to like Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street series, yeah, those movies kind of go off the rails, but when so much of it takes place in a dream, you've already established your rules that anything can happen. And so I'm fine with that. And, and Freddy, we know as a character, likes to mess with his victims a lot before he really seriously tries to kill them.
Yeah.
But here it's like, okay, it's all in the real world, technically. It's not... They may be having visions, but they're still mostly conscious. So it's all up in the air how the rules work out.
Okay, so then, going back to the third act, another thing I want to say is, like you said, it's hard to take it seriously when the characters themselves aren't even taken seriously. And it seems like almost every scare is like undercut by a joke.
Yeah.
Here. Like in the Marvel movies, everything has to have a joke. But it was different than like the first one, because the first one you laugh because the kids are like cursing, and the kids are just like acting naturally like kids.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, they're saying like actual jokes, which makes it seem like a little out of place.
Yeah. Also, the writing too is a little... I thought this... Maybe no one else is really picking up on this, but like a little juvenile that like... I think... If I have like a swear word count, like they must have said fuck in this at least 150 times.
Oh yeah.
Like they were saying like fuck every scene. Like this is so fucking weird. Let's kill this fucking clown. Fuck. It's just like, like this is like the angry video game nerds like blessed movie of like the year. I don't
Yeah, and that makes more sense when they're kids, because that's how like kids talk. But these adults, it's just like, come on.
This movie has a problem with tone at times. And it's definitely not as, I guess, as the structure goes, it's not as tight as Chapter 1.
Oh, not at all.
It's too long, it's too padded out, and once it hits that climax, even the climax is longer than it probably should be, too.
Oh, yeah. And one thing I wanted to say about the third act was I didn't like, although I liked the design more than in the 90s one, I did not like how they just made a spider with a giant Pennywise head.
Yeah, you know what it was reminding me of? It was, I was getting flashbacks to, because I haven't revisited this movie since I saw it in theaters, but Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, whenever it cut to Helena Bonham Carter as the Queen of Hearts.
Oh, yeah.
Her big-ass head and, like, the red hair. It looked so uncannily weird.
Yeah, it just wasn't scary, and it's like they should have just dropped Pennywise at that point, and then we could have seen it in its, like, true form, or... whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah, just do like a really... There's a lot of designs you could have gone. In the book, it is supposed to be like a space arachnid, like a cosmic spider. And I'm fine if they wanted to still do that here too, but like, yeah, I guess what they wanted, I guess the clown look is the most popular, so they probably stuck with the clown and then mixed it with the spider elements, but nothing about it was really like insanely creepy or weird. The other thing too is like in the book too, it's like it behaves differently when you see it in its true form. Like it's not like taunting them like it normally does. It's actually more like how the clown's been acting in these movies, where it's just beast-like and creep and just like an animal, pretty much.
And then they figure out the way to kill it. This actually reminded me of the classic Godzilla's Revenge, where what's the way to beat a bully is to just become a bully yourself.
Yep.
They just bully it to death. You're ugly. But I did like the little baby Pennywise. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
How he turned to like a little baby, and they ripped his heart out.
Yeah, they do. That was handled pretty well too, because they do rip out the organs at the end. But I thought this ended nicely too. It closed everything together okay, way better than the 1990 movie did. There's no scene where Bill is trying to like get his wife to be unconscious, so he just decides to ride his silver bike down the big hill of Derry.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be the ending shot, was him riding his bike away, but then it goes on a little longer where they make Stan sacrifice himself with that letter.
Yeah, I thought that was fine, actually, though. That was like...
Because that wasn't in the book, from what I heard.
I don't think so, no. But I liked that they gave him, like, one last moment, I think, because he was...
Okay.
He's just absent most of the movie.
And Bill Hader's acting when they were all in the lake. It was a little corny, but I liked having... He's a good crier.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I would say overall the film is... It's okay. It's safe.
Yeah,
like the first one.
I hear they're gonna do a super cut of all of them.
Oh, like combined?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And if they do that, I would like to see it done in the style of the book, where it cuts back and forth.
If they can cut out a lot too, maybe even narrow it down to like 3.5 hours.
Oh yeah.
That would be tough, but I would like to see if they could maybe do that or pull it off.
If they did that, I would cut out all the kids stuff that's in this one, and just try and implement the kids stuff from the first one into flashbacks and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I was so surprised they got a cast like this for a horror movie. Horror movies never get these types of casts.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it's rare. This is a rare time to kind of see this sort of, I guess, love for... I don't know if I would say love for the genre, because I wouldn't say all jump scares. There's a bit of a normie crowd that definitely finds this appealing, but I would say, like, in terms of just mainstream horror, it's great to see this amount of talent involved, at least on screen.
Yeah, well, I think that shows that like horror is pretty popular these days, which is good, because man, remember right after Scream came out, horror movies just sucked for so long.
Yeah. Well,
there weren't any good horror movies. There was like One Missed Call.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, One Missed Call. A lot of the J horror films were being remade here. Like I Know What You Shit Last Summer or whatever.
The Ring wasn't bad. Ring 2 kind of sucked.
Ring 2 was terrible. I like the Ring 1 though. Yeah, it's like there was even a period like after like the big slasher boom when it started to die down and everybody knew all the cliches. There's a good period from like 89 to 1995 when it was like horror movies were also just kind of not. They were still doing well, but they were not like making millions upon millions of dollars like they are now. We're seeing like Scream definitely brought back like the blockbuster horror again, and then it died down, and then I would say actually, I mean it Chapter 1 broke new ground, but I would say what James Wan has been doing lately has been everyone's go-to horror like franchise. The Conjuring stuff, the Insidious stuff, which are also getting kind of tiresome and boring.
Yeah, and I feel like people are also now getting an appreciation for things like The Witch, or
Yeah.
like Midsummer, or Hereditary, like more of those like kind of slow burn,
Yeah.
just kind of like creepy horror movies, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm actually working on a little series right now for October where every day I'm going to do a quick review of what I consider to be a great horror film that came out of the this past decade from 2010 to 2019. And I touch on, you know, how some horror films now are like inspiring new directors to kind of like reignite what they loved from the classics of the past and embrace like those traditional styles of filmmaking, like the Kubrick style of filmmaking, stuff like The Wicker Man, Rosemary's Baby, just like the new Hollywood kind of style where everything's a lot bit more slow in pace, and like a lot more attention just to characters, like working with one another, like hiding the scares and like unleashing them right when they feel earned. You know, a lot just showing a lot more respect for the audience. And you see Ari Aster doing that quite a bit. You see Robert Eggers with The Witch doing that really well. I think we're seeing a lot more. Oz Perkins is a good one. He did Black Coat's daughter. He's got a new movie coming out called Gretel and Hansel. I don't know if you saw that trailer. It's a new Hansel and Gretel movie, but it looks really good.
Nice. Wonder if it'll be as good as The Visit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Even M. Night, I would say I would put in this camp too, where he's got like a Hitchcockian sort of flair to his movies, and The Visit's that's a good one. That's a good example. But yeah, so would you recommend It Chapter 2 to anybody, to your loved ones?
If you like the first one, I would recommend it because you might want to see how it wraps up. Would I recommend it to a casual audience? I guess
if you're really into the superhero scene and you want to get into horror, I would say sure.
Yeah, it feels very blockbustery, but it's hard to recommend an almost 3-hour long movie if you're not already interested in the source material or the first movie.
I'd say if you're a King fan, if you're interested in seeing a slightly closer adaptation of his book, go for it. If you like this cast, definitely. But I would wait till it comes out on video, and that's in hoping that the quality is still as good as it looked in the theater, because it does look pretty dark and murky in scenes.
I just do feel like this movie's biggest flaw is like, it's got to be the length. This movie's just too damn long.
Yeah.
And like you said, by 40 minutes, which is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it needed to be cut. And it needed to be more. Again, my main issue is like it needed to be a lot more subtle with some of these scares. It's like, I don't know. I can't speak for a lot of audiences, but genuine horror fans are fine with a slower pace, and just building tension and suspense rather than in your face jump scares left and right. They don't need as much noise to digest all of this horror stuff. So if you are a serious horror fanatic but you don't like jump scares, I would pass. Unless you like if you like the story, I mean, go for it. I'm not gonna tell anybody what to do, but yeah, that's just my take on it.
All right.
So, I give it. I'd say overall, it's an okay movie. 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.